Camille Flimn, welcome to Profile.
Thank you so much, Archibald. Thank you for having me. It really is a pleasure.
You have a beautiful story, and I want to give people a little bit of the Cliff Notes version of it before we go into it. So born to parents who worked in shipping before moving into entrepreneurship, which is exactly what you do as well. You're an entrepreneur. Your father opened a restaurant and a bar. Your mother went into catering. Your grandmother, seamstress, taught you sewing and dressmaking. So this is a very creative, very entrepreneurial family. Introduced you to crochet, embroidery, baking, and cake decorating, even drew cartoon characters on cakes as a child, which is very interesting to me, how that is also partly, that informs what you do right now, although that was not your path for many years. St. Peter and Paul Prep, Immaculate Conception High, Queens High, loved science and art, studied biochemistry at the University of the West Indies, and we'll talk a little bit about how that, all of it connects, because that helps you with what you're doing right now. After stepping away from medicine, and then took what was meant to be a gap year to help your parents, then 10 years at Air Jamaica. Yes. So a completely different sort of off course, depending on what you call your course. Yes. And then when Air Jamaica closed, you discovered your a gift for cake artistry by baking your son's birthday cake and turning necessity into opportunity and into a successful business. Yes. When you listen to the journey, though, what do you think?
I'm still in awe of it. I call it my testimony because I really didn't know that I had this talent. I tell most people that this is my God-given talent, and that it's because it came straight from him. I had no formal training in this. I mean, literally, I wanted to be a doctor. Yes, I wanted to be a doctor. And by the time I took that gap year and went to Air Jamaica, I met the love of my life. So I met my husband, and during those 10 years, I had 4 children. So it didn't seem as practical for me, but nobody thought Air Jamaica was going anywhere. And unfortunately, it did. So when I was made redundant, I spent the better half of a year home, just looking after the kids, and my husband, total support. I couldn't have done this without him. My mom has been a baker, because she's a baker and caterer. She is my baker, the best baker. And when I asked her, to just show me how to deal with the fondant, because that's where the chemistry comes in. Fondant is a whole different, at that time, it was a whole new thing. It, very daunting, but I attempted. And, it was okay the first time I did it. And then I did my son's birthday cake. For him, I did 3 cakes. I was very ambitious. So I did Thomas and Friends. And when I made it, the parents were like, oh my goodness, where did you get this from? And when I told them that I made it, that was the beginning of it. That was
the beginning of the journey into owning your own business at this point.
Well, even at that time, it wasn't even owning my own business, because in 2012, I started Fly Jamaica and I started my cake business. Well, a soft launch, let's call it a soft launch, because I really wasn't doing it like that. As I said, it was for parents first, parents of the kids, and so I now had to navigate and juggle between flying and cake.
But let's take a step back, because that was the point at which you did that. But in many ways, in your upbringing, you were exposed to all of this entrepreneurship and also this specific skill. Let's talk about growing up and the people who raised you.
Okay, well, I am the product of 2 amazing parents, very hardworking. My father, Wessel, he is from Alexandria, St. Anne, so he's from the Garden Parish. He actually started, his first job was as a teacher. So, he's a disciplinarian, right? So he left St. Anne and came to Kingston. He worked at JOS, the Gleaner, and other places. And then he finally stayed at Sealand. So Sealand is where he met my mom.
It's a shipping company.
Yes, it's a shipping company. Mm-hmm. And my mom was a secretary there. So she was a secretary in shipping there. And then he decided that he wanted to branch out on his own. So what he did is he left and he opened his own restaurant and bar on Cargill Avenue. It was called Oh Yes. And my mother continued to be a personal assistant at Smith Klein Beecham and then at Mazuka Lighting. She decided to go into catering. And during that time, because they were entrepreneurs and they were so busy, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. So my grandmother also had a hand in raising me.
Seamstress.
Yes, she was a seamstress.
And many other talents. That's
Yes,
just one of them.
yes, but my mom is the one that has all that talent too. You know, she taught me how to crochet. She taught me embroidery. She built on the sewing. I feel like everything that I do is because of my mom.
What was she saying to you as well? Was this just, you're just seeing her work hard, or was she also saying to you, you have to work hard, you have to do this, you have to do that?
I had a good balance because my father was the one like, you better get that schoolwork done. And my mom encouraged the artistic side of me. So I think there was a good balance for me. And going to St. Peter and Paul, it was just the perfect environment. I had the opportunity to dance for JCDC, and then I got to get my schoolwork done, So I was so grateful when I passed for Immaculate. And when I was at Immaculate, that is when my artistic side really started to come out. Most persons, I remember people come up to me now and say, Camille, remember when you drew that thing for me? I think they said they used to pay me. I don't remember that part. But I used to do a lot of drawings, which I did as an adult. I actually started to do murals. So I've always gravitated towards the artistic aspect of things.
So explain to me then, if you're gravitating towards the artistic part of things, explain to me the medicine and biochemistry.
Well, 8 years old, 9 years old, I thought to myself, I want to be a pediatrician. That is where I want to be. So that was ingrained. And of course, in those days, you're hearing, you need to be a this or you need to be a that if you want to be successful. So you're not seeing the success in art. You're seeing the success in medicine, law, architecture, It's so thrilling to know that there are so many different faces to success, though. Yeah. So, as I believe I'm living testimony of that. But if I had to choose, which I did have to choose, I have a love for chemistry and biology. So that is why I chose that aspect.
All right, I'm pause you right there because we have to go to the break and talk about, after the break, we'll talk a little bit about how you delved into that for a while, but then decided that that journey into Air Jamaica and then into the business. To take our first break on Profile, my guest is entrepreneur Camille Flimn, and we are back with you after these messages.